Nobody saw it coming that fast. One moment the game was baseball. The next moment it was something else entirely. Something that made the crowd go quiet before it made them loud. Something that made the umpire move before the managers could even get out of the dugout. Something that, when it was over, left Shohei Ohtani standing at the plate with an expression that needed no translation. Two Brewers players had made him their target. And by the time the dust settled, one of them was already walking toward the clubhouse. This was supposed to be a baseball game. 3 games between the Dodgers and the Brewers. A series that mattered in the standings. A series that both teams had prepared for carefully, adjusted for, structured their rosters around. The kind of series where the chess match happens before the first pitch and continues long after the last out. Nobody scripted what actually happened. The moment arrived in the 4th inning. Not at the end of the game when tensions are already stretched thin. Not in extra innings when exhaustion makes people do things they wouldn't otherwise do. The 4th inning. Early enough that what happened carried the full weight of intent behind it. Late enough that both teams had already felt the game's current running beneath them. Ohtani had already done damage by then. That was the context. That was the temperature of the room before everything changed. He had come to the plate in the 2nd inning with the quiet readiness that defines him. No performance. No visible emotion. Just the stance, the eyes tracking the pitcher, and the stillness that makes opposing pitchers feel like they're already behind before they release the ball. The Brewers starter had been careful. Deliberately careful. The kind of careful that tells you the scouting report had been thorough and the conversations in the dugout before the game had been serious. He worked the edges. He changed speeds. He tried to make Ohtani uncomfortable in the way that pitchers try to make elite hitters uncomfortable. It didn't work. On the 5th pitch of the at-bat, Ohtani made the adjustment that elite hitters make when they've seen enough. His swing was not violent. It was precise. The kind of precision that looks effortless until you understand how much preparation goes into making something look that way. The ball left the park. The stadium absorbed it for a half-second and then erupted. And somewhere in the Brewers' dugout, something shifted. That's where the story really begins. Not at the moment of contact. At the moment after. At the moment when a team that came into this series with a plan looks at their pitcher and realizes the plan has already taken damage. Baseball dugouts are not places where emotions stay hidden for long. The cameras find them whether they mean to or not. And what the cameras found in the Brewers' dugout in the seconds after that home run was not simply frustration. It was something more specific than that. A conversation. Quick. Pointed. Between 2 players whose body language said everything the audio didn't capture. The second baseman. And the shortstop. 2 innings later, they would make those body language signals into something visible to everyone in the stadium. The 4th inning came the way tense innings come in important games. Slowly. Each pitch carrying more weight than it should. The Brewers had responded and the game was close enough that every at-bat felt like a referendum on which team wanted it more. Ohtani led off the inning. He walked to the plate the same way he always walks to the plate. No acknowledgement of the noise. No interaction with the crowd. Eyes forward, body loose, mind already somewhere 3 pitches ahead of everyone else in the building. The first pitch was inside. Not just inside. Inside in the way that sends a message rather than retires a hitter. Inside in the way that makes the home plate umpire go still for a moment before resuming his stance. Inside in the way that Ohtani felt and registered but did not react to outwardly because reacting outwardly is not who he is. He stepped out of the box. Adjusted his batting glove. Stepped back in. The second pitch was worse. This time it wasn't just inside. It was directed. The kind of pitch that in any other at-bat against any other hitter gets classified as a mistake or a slip. But this was the second consecutive pitch of this kind. Against this hitter. In this inning. After what had happened in the second inning, the umpire called time. He didn't hesitate. He didn't wait to see if a third pitch was coming. He had seen enough in those 2 pitches to know what was happening, and his job in that moment was to stop it before it escalated further. He walked toward the mound. What was said during that conversation will stay between the umpire and the pitcher. Those moments never fully make it out of the space between the mound and the plate. But the effect was visible. The pitcher nodded. The umpire held his gaze for just a beat longer than a normal mound visit requires. The kind of gaze that says, "I am watching you now." Specifically. For the rest of this game. He walked back behind the plate. The at-bat resumed. But the Brewers' second baseman had been watching all of it. And what happened next came not from the pitcher. It came from the field. Nobody could say exactly what was said first. Distance makes it difficult. The stadium noise makes it impossible. But what was clear was the direction of it. The second baseman, positioned behind the bag, said something toward the plate. Loud enough that Ohtani heard it. Loud enough that the first base umpire turned his head. Loud enough that the Dodgers' first base coach took 2 steps forward as if instinct had moved him before his brain could complete the thought. Ohtani did not respond. That is the part of this story that needs to be said clearly. He did not turn around. He did not gesture. He did not say anything back. He stood at the plate with the same stillness he always carries and looked at the pitcher. But the second baseman didn't stop. Whatever it was, it continued. It escalated in the way that stadium microphones sometimes catch and sometimes don't. But the umpire at first base caught it. He turned fully now. He was no longer just watching. He was moving. The crew chief came in from his position. There was a brief exchange between umpires. The kind that happens in real time when a call is about to be made and the officials want to be certain they are aligned before they make it. They were aligned. The second baseman was ejected. The Brewers' dugout came out immediately. That was expected. That's baseball. When a player gets ejected, the manager comes out, the coaches come out, voices get raised, hands get extended toward the sky in the universal language of protest. The Brewers' manager walked toward the umpire with the particular walk of a man who is furious but also aware that furious has a limit before it becomes a second ejection. He argued. The umpire listened. The decision did not change. The second baseman had already begun the long walk. Head down. Back straight. The walk of someone who knows they crossed a line and cannot walk it back. The stadium was not quiet during any of this. The Dodgers crowd gave the moment everything it deserved and then some. The sound moved through the building in waves. First the recognition that something significant had happened. Then the understanding of what it was. Then the full-throated response that comes when a home crowd sees their best player targeted and then sees accountability arrive in real time. Ohtani remained at the plate through all of it. After the ejection, after the managers had finished their arguments and the game had resumed, the at-bat completed in the way that felt almost inevitable given everything that had surrounded it. Ohtani worked the count. He saw pitches. He fouled off the ones he couldn't do damage with. And then he found the one he could. He didn't hit it out of the park this time. He didn't need to. A hard single up the middle. An RBI. A run that pushed the Dodgers' lead back to the margin that mattered. And as he stood on first base, the stadium still buzzing from everything that had happened in the previous 5 minutes, he did what he always does. He looked at the next hitter. Already thinking about the next play. In the press conference afterward, Dave Roberts was asked about the sequence. About the pitches inside. About the ejection. About how he processed watching his best player get targeted. He didn't answer fast. He leaned forward slightly. His hands came together in front of him. When he spoke, his voice was controlled in the way that voices are controlled when the feeling underneath them is anything but. What I saw tonight was my player handle himself with extraordinary class. He could have responded. He chose not to. That tells you everything about who he is." He paused. "And what the umpires did, calling it when they called it, that was right. That was exactly right." A reporter asked if he thought the targeting had been intentional from the beginning of the at-bat. Roberts looked at the reporter for a moment. 2 pitches. Same location. Same hitter. Same inning. You can draw your own conclusion. He didn't add anything to that. He didn't need to. Ohtani spoke briefly. Briefly in the way that he always speaks briefly, where every sentence carries more weight than the sentence count suggests. He was asked how he felt standing at the plate during those 2 pitches. He thought about the question for a moment. "I just wanted to hit," he said. "That's all I was thinking about. Hit the ball." He was asked about the second baseman's comments. He smiled slightly. The kind of smile that doesn't mean something is funny. "I didn't hear anything," he said. Everyone in the room understood that that was not entirely true. And everyone in the room understood exactly why he said it anyway. By the time the final out was recorded and the Dodgers had taken Game 1 of the series, the story had already moved beyond baseball. It was on social media. It was in the highlight packages. It was in the conversations happening in parking lots and sports bars and living rooms across the country. 2 Brewers players had made Shohei Ohtani their target. One of them had been sent home early. And Ohtani had answered in the only way that actually matters. Not with words. Not with gestures. With an RBI single and a run that helped win a baseball game. The series had 2 more games left. Nobody in either dugout was treating them as routine anymore.